This video covers the Lesson 2-8 warm-up for Secondary 1 Math, writing and interpreting exponential equations. We're first going to look at finding the pattern for number 1 and 2. So looking at number 1, if we look at the top row of this table and look at how the days are changing, the change from 1 to 2 is 1, so we're increasing by 1 day. From 2 to 3 is 1. From 3 to 4 is 1. So we're changing by 1 day each time. And let's see how the bacteria changes. We started out with 2, and then it goes to 4. And then from 4 it goes to 8, and 8 goes to 16 after 1 day. So what's happening here? We might think, oh, well, we're just adding 2, but then if we take 4 and add 2, it doesn't give us 8. So we got to rethink what's happening. Addition's not going to work, subtraction's not going to work, so what if we multiply 2 by 2? That gives us 4. 4 times 2 would be 8, and 8 times 2 would be 16, which means the number of bacteria doubles each day. Okay, number 2. Again, if we look at the top row, the number of days, we're incrementally going up by 1 day each time. So we're just going up by 1 day. So what's happening each day? So the first day we're going from 2 to 4, which means we're adding 2 here, or possibly multiplying by 2 like the last one. But then we go from 4 to 6, which is a change of 2, which is adding 2. And then 6 to 8 we also see is adding 2. So our pattern here is that we are adding 2 each day. Now we're going to graph 1 and 2. And it says don't forget to label the x and y axes with the appropriate units. So let's start by labeling our axes. So the top row will represent our x value, and the bottom row will represent our y value. So we're going to label the x-axis as the number of days. And that means that the y-axis will be labeled as the number of bacteria. Now to graph this, we're going to take the x value and the y value and plot our point. So we're going to go over 1 and up 2. Notice our point ends up right here because if we look at the y-axis, this is 4. So that means we're moving up by increments of 2 on the y-axis. Next, we have 2 4, so we're going to go over to 2 and up to 4. So it looks pretty nice and straight here. Go over to 3 and up to 8. And then we go over to 4 and up to 16. And remember, this was doubling. Okay, so there's our graph. We're going to graph number 2 the same way. I like to mark my x row, number of days, and the y row, number of bacteria. And that helps me label my axes and then place my points. So we're going to label the x-axis as the number of days and the y-axis the number of bacteria. And then we place our points. So we have 1, 2. So it's going to be in the same spot as the last one. The next one is 2, 4. Again, following the same pattern so far. 3, 6. And then 4, 8. So notice this is a straight line if we were to connect those points. Number 5, we're going to compare and contrast the two graphs. So thinking about those two graphs, how are they the same and how are they different? Well, one of the things that they have in common is that they both start at the same place. Both graphs also are increasing. Or you could say, go up. The next question is, how are they different? Comparing the two graphs, we might notice that the graph on the left increases much faster. What we have done here in this comparison of number 1 and number 2 leads us to understand the difference between linear and exponential. Now linear is when you add or subtract by a constant. A good example of this was number 2. Okay, and exponential is when you multiply or divide by a constant. And this was number 1, where we were multiplying by 2. This concludes the Lesson 2-8 warm-up video for Secondary 1 Math, writing and interpreting exponential equations.